Hi, it's CALC here, and in this video we're going to take a look at how we can use the multiple outputs on the Summit synthesizer to manage our sounds and our sound design. We'll also take a good look at how we can use the audio inputs to feed any external audio signals in through the synthesizer engine and onto the effects. So now we're going to take a look at the way that the audio is managed with the Summit. One of the really powerful things with Summit is the fact that we have multiple outputs, and this is really useful when we're in the multi-mode in Summit, and we can basically track or record our separate synthesizer parts into separate tracks, into your DAW or into your mixer, whatever you want to do really. To set this up is really simple. Go to the settings page, and here on page 10 you'll see that we have our output routing, and I can choose to send part A either out of the main or out of the auxiliary outputs. The same for part B here as well. And indeed I can also choose what I want my headphone signal to come from, whether that's going to come out of the main or the auxiliary outputs. Or we can actually split them as well so that we have both parts coming through the headphones. The same is also true on the next page here, where we can also route our effects. So effectively we can use one of the Summit's engines simply as an effects processor. We can route the main synthesizer audio out of the main output, but then still have the effects coming directly from the auxiliary output. And again, I could even do the same here for FXA. So now we have dry synth signal coming out of outputs 1 and 2, and out of the auxiliary outputs we now simply have the effects processor. Now in Summit we have the ability to spread our voices around using a stereo control, and we do this in the voice menu. And if we go here to our spread option, here I've just got a very basic patch, sawtooth, and as I increase that now, for the best results I'd recommend wearing some headphones for this. But you should be able to hear that the voices are now being panned across the stereo field. This is also really good when we're using unison, and we can use the spread here to really thicken out that sound into the stereo field. So this is a nice basic way to get some stereo movement into your sounds, but there is a really neat trick that we can use when we're in a multi-mode. So I'm going to go to an initialized multi-patch. This is just going to be a very basic patch, of course, and I'm going to go into, we'll keep it into layer mode, and I'm going to press both to control both synthesizer engines at the same time. Again, this will just be a simple sawtooth to begin with, but we'll just quickly create a sound. Now at the moment we're listening to the two synthesizers coming out of outputs 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, but they're two stereo instruments. If I go to my outputs on the back here, and I'll actually take out outputs 3 and 4 for this, just put them to one side, and I'm going to take my right output and plug that directly into the mono output for Synth 2. Now we have the same patch but coming from two independent synthesizer engines, and this has a really broad scope for giving us a much more interesting stereo sound. Let's have a quick listen. You should be able to hear now there's a much thicker sound, but equally now I can also manipulate the left and right sides individually with the controls. If I want to control both of the synths at the same time, again of course, I press both. And this really opens up the possibility of using the Summit in a really nice stereo way. Of course, alongside having multiple outputs, we also have two inputs into the Summit engine. Now at the moment I'm just going in from the mono input and I've got this connected to an auxiliary output on my mixing console so I can feed any audio I want into the Summit. Now to get the audio to sound we need to go to our voice menu, and here on the third page we have audio inputs. This is currently expecting to come in pre-filter, so before the filter stage of the synthesizer. We can also, if we prefer, choose to send it post-filter, and that would mean it would come in after the filter and then just simply through the effects processor. Personally, I really enjoy putting it through the filter because the sound of this analog filter on incoming audio can have a really great effect. Now, we're not hearing anything at the minute because the amplifier is closed, so let's open the amplifier up by activating it with a key. I've got it set to key latch, so this will hold in place for me. In the background you might be able to hear some ambient noise, which is a field recording of, I think, in a subway, and this is now passing through and is joined in with the sound of the oscillators. And adding a little bit of ambience like this can really open up the sound of your patch. Or indeed you can just simply use the Summit as a processor for any incoming audio, maybe even another synthesizer. Of course, this is on part B, so I'm going to now go to part A and just play a little line over the top. So you can see by feeding audio directly into the Summit through the filter, or after the filter if you prefer, and through the effects, can have a really huge impact on your sound design and the way that you use the instrument. That's a look at the multiple outputs and also the audio inputs for the Summit synthesizer. If you want to find out a little bit more about some of the other aspects of the different sections of the synth engine, do check out the videos that we've been working on. Thanks very much for watching.